Hi, my name is Jerry Wise. I'm a therapist at Family Tree Counseling Associates in Carmel, Indiana, and this video is entitled The Shame-Based Marriage. Well, what is shame? According to Gershom Kaufman from his book Shame, The Power of Caring, he states, to feel shame is to feel seen in a painfully diminished sense. For example, a parent tells a young child who knocks over their drink, "Why are you so stupid and clumsy? Can't you do anything right?" And they're very angry with the child, and the child doesn't understand that they've made a mistake. And in fact, the child doesn't believe they've simply done something wrong. They believe they are the mistake, that they are wrong, not just their behavior has been unacceptable. Shame is a taboo subject in our culture, and we have a shame-based culture. Shame is one of those primary feelings that we're not supposed to talk about, and we learned very early on in our family of origin not to talk about shame. And often within adult conversations, that's not a subject that most of us would bring up or discuss. And primary feelings are often the ones that we don't talk about. So, shame-based families create shame-based individuals who create shame-based marriages. Let me share some characteristics of the shame-based adult. And these come from the book Shame and Guilt, Masters of Disguise by Jane Middleton Mose. She writes, the characteristics of adults who are shame-based. Adults shamed as children are afraid of vulnerability and fear exposure of self. Adults shamed as children may suffer extreme shyness, embarrassment, and feelings of being inferior to others. They don't believe they make mistakes. Instead, they believe they are mistakes. Adults shamed as children fear intimacy and tend to avoid real commitment in relationships. These adults frequently express the feeling that one foot is out the door and are prepared to run. Shame-based adults may appear either grandiose or self-centered, or may seem selfless, or as we say, counterdependent or codependent. Shame-based adults feel that no matter what I do, it won't make a difference. These adults frequently experience the feelings of worthlessness and that they are unlovable. Shame-based adults feel defensive when even minor negative feedback is given. They suffer feelings of severe humiliation if forced to look at mistakes or imperfections. This is very common in my practice, that even when I point out an observation or simply state something as being the case that might have even a shade of negativity, those who are shame-based go deeply into their shame, and it becomes an observation times 10 to the negative. And that's when I know someone's really suffering from shame. Shame-based adults blame others before they can be blamed. So often we'll take a defensive position in an offensive way, and if I cut others down first, then maybe I won't get cut myself. Shame-based adults suffer from debilitating guilt. These individuals apologize constantly. They assume responsibility for the behavior of those around them. And shame-based adults feel a pervasive sense of loneliness throughout their lives, even when surrounded with those who love and care about them. And I remember early on during my more heavily codependent years, being surrounded by a number of people, but feeling very alone and very isolated, even though there were lots of people around me. Shame-based adults project their beliefs about themselves onto others. They engage in mind reading that is not in their favor, consistently feeling judged by others. Again, adults who are shame-based feel that others are judging them mercilessly, whether they are or not. Sometimes we are judged mercilessly. Most of the time we're not. Most people are not all that interested in what we're doing or what our life is about, but yet we feel acutely that very strong feeling that we're being looked at in a diminished sense, or that we're doing something wrong, or that there's something wrong with us. So who do shame-based adults pick as partners and spouses? We pick someone who has intimacy problems. We pick someone who has the equivalent self-esteem or self-differentiation level that we have. We pick someone who is reactive and who gets reactive and doesn't feel comfortable in maintaining a healthy balance of connectedness and separateness, or a healthy balance of we-ness and I-ness. We pick someone who assists you in blocking positive feelings. Often they will agree with us about our negative feelings and collude with us about our negative view of the world, and ourselves in particular. We'll pick someone who either trades their self for peace at all costs, or is self-centered and shaming. Again, someone who might be codependent or counterdependent. Both unhealthy, though different and flip sides of the same coin. And we will pick someone who is often addicted. Either addicted to work, drugs, alcohol, relationships, gambling, religion, addicted to being right, addicted to anger or rage, and that's who we often pick in shame-based marriages. So why is shame such an important topic for marriages? The more the shame, the more the low self-esteem. And in a marriage in which the marriage is based around shame, shame limits closeness. Shame imposes enmeshment and overfusion. Shame limits joy and calmness. Shame limits a sense of self. Shame affects sexual intimacy. Shame limits cooperation and compassion. Shame limits empathy. Shame blocks positive feelings, and those positive feelings either coming in us or coming out of us. Shame ultimately creates roommates out of couples, or worse, divorce. So what do we do to heal a shame-based marriage? Don't wait until the pain is unbearable. Often those of us who are shame-based are used to lots of internal pain. And so we wait a long time to get help. And in fact, we can tolerate an awful lot of pain and negative feelings and often wait way too long before we ask for help. Don't run from shame. And don't accept the taboo nature of shame in our culture, society. Shame-based families have a rule, a dysfunctional rule, and it's called the no talk rule. Don't express your feelings and don't talk about them. And we have to break that rule for us to overcome shame. Stop trying to fix your spouse or your spouse's shame. Start working on your issues or your shame or your self-esteem. That is the best thing you can do to begin to improve a marriage. Don't try to fix it as a couple alone, in a stovepipe situation where it's just the two of you. Because then it turns into what I call a therapeutic marriage, where each play the counselor role. Counselor's role in marriages hinders intimacy. We are not our spouse's counselor, and we are not there to tell them what they need to do and how they need to do it and what's wrong with them. That often hinders the relationship and hinders the marriage and intimacy. There are other ways to do it besides being counselors to one another. Start looking at the problem in your marriage as extensions of your family of origin issues. Those issues that have been left unresolved. Shame didn't start in your marriage. It has a history and goes back a long way. Find a recovery group, a therapist, a church, a therapy group to connect with. Shame is an interpersonal injury and will require an interpersonal healing. Shame causes us to do shameful things, resulting in isolation and feeling of loneliness. That it's the only meanness. Nobody could love me feelings. A decent person wouldn't have done what I did feelings. Remember, you are not alone. This is a common feeling for those of us who have experienced shame and have had shame problems. I want to thank you for listening today. Please join Family Tree Counseling's channel on YouTube to listen to more videos and help. Call me for more help or therapy at 317-919-6264. I can do FaceTime and Skype therapy and coaching. You can find more information at www.familytreecounseling.com. And again, have a great day. Thanks for listening.